What's up, guys? This is Tom, creator of Silent Conquest. People have been wanting me to do a more in-depth video on how I make my bleached pieces. So on a blank tee, I'm going to show y'all from start to finish my entire process. Let's get into it. Okay, so first thing, this is what you're going to need. Your Lysol. All-purpose cleaner with bleach. That's why I had bleach in quotations, because it's really only 3% bleach. You know, I use this method because it does not destroy the garment. The exposure is very minimal, and that means you don't have to neutralize it afterwards. So that's why I use it. Just to kind of show you, I've been using this to wipe down my stencils for well over a year. I've ran it through the wash a few times. Stronger than ever, no damage whatsoever. It's one of my original failed experiments, so I just used it to wipe down the stencils. Now, also your preferred method of spraying. So you could use any brand, really. It doesn't have to be Lysol. I like Lysol for when I do want like the blotchy effect. This Lysol bottle foams up, so it gives you, an effect like this. Let me show y'all. So I wrinkled this and then I sprayed it. But see how you got those blotches in there? Right here. You got this blotchy effect. I'll show you on the one that I didn't wrinkle. If that's what you're looking for, something like this, then you're gonna want to use the bottle of Lysol because it foams up. Now if you want something more like grainy, see how it's got that grainy effect there? You're gonna want just a regular spray bottle. And if you want more of like a light smoky effect, I guess, you're gonna want to use this, the mist spray. See how it's like a lighter, more of like a smoky effect that you get. Obviously, I wrinkled this to get that effect. All right, so let's get into doing the process. Well, this is what we're making today, right here. We're going to be using the mist bottle to come up with this little smoky effect here. Let's get into it. Now, picking your garment for the effect that the bleach gives. So different brands use different dyes in their clothes. For Gildan, you're going to get an effect like this. But Shaka-Wear, because of the dyes that they use in their fabric, it's more of like an orange. And it has its place. Like for my piece, Embers of Silence, that's on my website, I use Shaka-Wear because it looks actually like, embers from a fire. So it's dope. It has its place. Just play around, get a few different blanks and have fun with it. So anyway, let's get into this. So throw down your garment. Now, if you're using a stencil, obviously placement matters. You want it to be perfectly centered. Now, I like to use permanent vinyl. It doesn't last too long. I get several uses out of them. But you don't need to have that. You can cut out cardboard, and weigh it down. You can get creative. You can get foam poster board from Walmart. So, just work with what you got. Here we go. I'm going to be using the mist. And I want it to flow around. Like if you want just a scrunch effect, you just scrunch it up and you're going to spray it. I want like a smoky effect here. So I'm going to kind of imagine how, the wrinkles in the shirt are going to give it that effect. Just picture of how it looked. You could already see that it's looking kind of like smoke. Just play with it, man. Have some fun. If it gets a little more wrinkly, trust me, it's going to blend in. It's going to look cool. You got to practice until you get your method down. There we go. We'll go with that. I think it's going to look cool. Now, when you're spraying, you don't want to be right above it and blast. If you blast it from 6 inches away, it's gonna bleed through. See, I'm like 12 to 18 inches away. All right, hit this real quick. This isn't totally necessary, Also, if you want to stop the bleeding, you want to move fast here. So I have a shirt form. You can just use a regular piece of cardboard, but you want to pull this up right away and get something in between that so it doesn't bleed through. All right, there it is. Also, do as I say, not as I do, okay? I know I'm not wearing my mask, but you're not going to be able to hear me when I got it over my face. Trust me, if you're doing this all the time, I know you may see me in the videos not using protection with my hands and my mouth and pause. Anyway, all right, here we go. So now, especially for the second pass, if I'm gonna be hitting the eyes and the X, I want to have something in between so it doesn't bleed through on the back and ruin the whole piece. Now the higher up, obviously, like I said, it's going to be less of an effect. It's not going to be bleeding through my garment, ruining it. It's not for everybody. Some people don't like this look. That's fine. Ignore the haters if you post. Trust, arguing with them does you no good. Thank them for the engagement. It'll push your content, trust me. Here it is. Here's the front. I think it looks dope. I like it. See, it's got that kind of like smoky flame effect. It's a good payoff. Oh, see that? It didn't stick very well. Dang it. All good. All good. Okay. Now I want to be able to scrunch this up without my big piece of cardboard getting in the way, but so to protect my image so it doesn't bleed through on it, I know it's right about there. Just get a smaller piece of cardboard or something, put it over that so if it does bleed through, it's not going to ruin your image. There it is, there's the back. Okay, so I usually give this 24 hours to dry. Let it dry out, air dry. You don't want to throw it in the dryer when it's still wet or anything like that, because it will, have a chance of, transferring onto your negative space. You don't want to go through all that hard work and throw it in the dryer, and then the wet part in the dryer hits your negative space and it ruins your whole entire piece. So let it dry out. I give it like 24 hours to air dry. There it is. Okay, you guys want me to do any more videos, just leave a comment, let me know. We can do a process with the regular spray bottle, then we can do a process with the foam from the Lysol bottle. Or if there's any other videos y'all want me to make, just let me know. I really appreciate y'all. You guys are amazing. I love y'all. Have a good day. Peace.